Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's college football, and it's going on the road in college football, and now more than ever in terms of parity. And it's tricky coming off a big win and a bye week and going into that place. And they're probably a little more confident than they were a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I mean, you would much rather be in the position A&M's in. If Jeff Lebby and Jeff Lebby and Mike Elko trade places, yes, Lebby would love to. Mike Elko would not. Like, I mean, you'd much rather be where A&M's at in this thing, but that guarantees you nothing, you know. So, and again, like you said, that's the league this year. It's too hard to pinpoint. I was one of them raving about Tennessee a few weeks ago. Now they can't score. They can't do anything offensively, Nico and Heupel. And if Graham Mertz, the quarterback everybody in Gainesville wanted out, doesn't get hurt, they win that game. Not to mention if Billy Napier, and by the way, I said one coach will be out of Oxford. The one in Gainesville will be done now. That stupidity the other night by him was just unfathomable. You like jet sweep on 4th and 1. They're fumbling inside the one. They have too many men on the field, or illegal substitution, whatever it was, that wiped out the field goal before halftime. No time left. Like, just pitiful mismanagement on his part. Or they might have blown Tennessee out.
All right, Bill, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with more. Are you coming to the studio, or are you going to be on the phone?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well,
driving back from Dallas.
Okay, we'll put you on hold here. We'll come back to you here in a moment. Billy Liucci there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. By the way, those of you listening on the radio, hopefully you continue listening, but you also have the video option now, as Cade was able to use his hammer and fix whatever was broken in the back. So we're back up on YouTube. We're back up on TexAgs.com. Cade, you got to let the folks at CW know that we are back, so make sure you do that for us as well. All right, right now we're talking a little Milliken Reserve. They just had Pumpkin Palooza. Hopefully many of you got to go check it out, take advantage of that TexAgs discount we gave you guys. But just a couple of ideas of what they have coming up here over the next couple of weeks. Volunteer at the farm on the 18th. You've also got that on the 26th. You've got the farm stand on the 26th. You've got Day at Play on the 26th. That begins at 9 a.m. And for members, you can do the trail run with the Lone Star Trail Running Crew, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on October the 26th. Gardening 101, one of our favorite things to do for winter garden prep. You certainly want to check out Gardening 101, October 29th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. You know Milliken Reserve, Farm to Table community in College Station. They got homes, they got farms, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. 2,600 acres of open space. Check out the website, millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We go back to the Boss Firearms Hotline. That's where we find Billy Liucci. Billy, I wanted to talk to you about areas of concern for A&M, not only heading into the season, but maybe a couple weeks into it, and how we feel about them now. So, like, some of the potential weaknesses don't seem like real weaknesses at the moment, and I'll just kind of go through some of them. Like the wide receiver room. While they're not the best in the SEC, I feel like we're not as worried about them recently. Is that a fair way of phrasing it?
Their best game of the year. You know, I'm not ready to say that's going to be what we see every single week, but I also would tell you I do think the potential is there for them to just continue to get better and become, like you said, they're not a weakness. I don't think at this point. I also don't think they're this unit that's feared throughout the SEC like some are. But I do think it's an improving position that's going to help you win football games. And they did just that on the last two Saturdays against Arkansas and Missouri.
More entering the season, and then a little bit early on, especially with some big plays, but the DB room, certainly another area that is not as big of a concern as it was maybe heading into the year.
Yeah, I mean, you know this, and you can document it. At no point along the way did I think the DB room was a concern heading into the season. Like I went so far as to say I think it could be a team strength, and that's exactly what's happening. And it didn't happen, like you said, overnight. But big play-wise, I mean, look, they still got to take on Texas and LSU, and you see what those offenses can do, and even South Carolina with the dual threat of Sellers. There's certainly tests still remaining on that front, but the secondary is the most.
Did we lose Billy? Might have lost Billy. Might be in a dead spot there on the. Yep, we lost him. We're going to try to reach him again. We lost Billy here for a moment. He was answering about the DB room, and you know, as he was getting into it, I'm not going to fill his words for him. We'll allow him to finish that thought. But you're still going to take on some big offenses like LSU, like Texas. But one thing we have seen is Will Lee and Dalton Brooks and the whole crew have certainly stepped up. I think Des Ricks has absolutely gotten better with each week, each game, each rep. So that is part of what we've seen from that group overall, is they are certainly getting better from week to week. And it's not as big of a concern as it was. For him, it wasn't really a concern heading into the season. But I think when I chose this list, because the last one we pick on, it's going to be talking points that heading into the season we had to see it. So we'll go back to the Boss Firearms Hotline and finish up with Billy here on this thought. You were in the middle of talking about, you know, Texas has big play potential, and I think you were about to talk about LSU, but on the DBs, continuing that thought, Billy.
Yeah, no, David, and if you lose me, just let's circle back at the 10 o'clock hour. Okay. You know, I don't know what's going on, but no, I just think, like I said, LSU and Texas and even South Carolina, because of their quarterback's ability to run, you have a lot of tough matchups for the back end still to come. But I said before the season, I thought this would be one of the two most improved. positions on the team, I thought it would be the most improved. I might, at midseason, award the offensive line that honor, but secondary is about what I thought, and that was with Tyreek Chappelle. And they absorbed, I think, a pretty tough injury there, David, tougher than people think, because that position is so important in college football today at that nickel spot, and they thought they had a real gem in Chappelle, and just kind of how quickly he took to that, what it meant, and you essentially lost him before. You played one meaningful game with him there against Notre Dame, and then you lost him in the week leading up to Florida, and so they've had to adjust. And I still think that unit has played really well, and holding down guys like Armstrong and Satania, and then taking it a step further and doing that to Theo Weiss and especially Luther Burden. That, to me, has been something that's really impressive when you try to project moving forward. And, yeah, you're going to give up catches and plays here and there. This is not the best secondary in the country, but they are a really improved unit. I think it's a team strength, and I think the most exciting thing is it should only get better. Des Riggs has not played very much football. Javon Thomas went from a guy no one talked much about to being a contributing player out there, legitimate contributor. Dalton Brooks, his star is on the rise. I think, Will Lee is having an all-SEC season, and guys like Ratcliffe he's been quiet lately, but he's been playing well all year. I say quiet. In fact, he hasn't had interceptions since Bowling Green, but he's been playing well all year. And then you got even that nickel spot where they're still you got the combo of Jaden Hill and a hard-charging B.J. Mays. So I think there's, not only have they been good the first half, there's a lot of room for growth for that unit, maybe as much as anywhere on the field.
Billy, the other one, which is definitely a strength of the team, that we had to see it, and we've seen it for the entire half of the season, is the offensive line. There were questions about the O-line, especially with some of the injuries that we saw early on, but regardless, they have absolutely been a strength of this team.
Oh, my gosh, right? It has been, that O-line and running game have been so consistent and consistently good. And they've been consistently, really good. And they're like you said, they're moving people. They're picking up stunts and blitzes and twists and giving their quarterback all kinds of time. I don't know what the sack total is through 6 games, but I don't know how much more than 6 it's sitting at. It might be 8 through 6 games or something, 8 or 9. It's very, very low. One of the best numbers in the SEC, and then they're running the hell out of the football. That unit's been awesome, and it's really nice when you consider, oh my God, Mark Naboo is your starting center. He went down, I believe, the first half of the first game, if not second half, but first game of the season, you lose your starting center for the year. You've had minor injuries here and there to Naboo. Shanahan's been out a few weeks. Armaj Reed Adams was banged up. You're continuing to play 2 right tackles. I think the unit, the starting 5, and then I don't know who you want to call the backup there at center, but whichever the other one is, it's not playing, and Cam Dewberry plus the extra tackle. I mean, they're going 8 deep right now, playing 8 guys a lot, and the O-line just continues to impress. The job Adam Cushing's done this year is incredible.
Bill, I'll do one more short one. I think special teams, I would like to see more offense from special teams, but punt team, field goals, kickoffs, all significantly improved.
Yeah, just the entire operation. I mean, there's been 2 negatives in 6 games to me. It was the block punt against Bowling Green, and then the fake punt working against Arkansas. That's it. Like you said, the punting, the kicking game's been incredible. Really lights out. I think the coverage units have been outstanding. Everything's been great. like you said, now the next step is the Bussy Papa return or two, and I think that's coming with who Terry Bussy is, and again, the amount of attention to detail and work they put into special teams versus how things were in the recent past. So I think that'll come, and that's going to happen sooner than later.
All right, Billy, we'll hit a break here. Do you want me to circle back with you at the start of the 10 o'clock?
Perfect.
Cool. Billy Liucci there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. We'll see him here right at 10 o'clock because we'll have a super short segment when we come back on the other side. As a reminder, we're back up on YouTube. We're back up on the CW. We're back up on TexAgs.com. We appreciate you guys just bearing with us. Some new equipment, some things that just unfortunately happened, but thank you very much for bearing with us as we try to bring you excellent content. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with a short open segment. Right now we're talking Lewis Engineering. They're in Marshall, Texas, but they're Aggie. That's what they are. They're just Aggies, right? Family owned and operated. Doug Lewis. His parents may have gone to Texas. That may have happened, but he's an Aggie, class of 2004. And this company was started by his great-grandfather during the Vietnam War, making handheld signal flares, and they still make those to this day. They manufacture mostly munitions for the Department of Defense, but also looking to take on any machining or metal fabrication project. There are also aerospace industry in there, the automotive industry. They have 40 employees, family-owned and operated out of a 50,000 square foot facility. And they specialize in high-volume machining and metal plating projects. So if you need 100,000 pieces of a particular widget, they can do that for you. They want to be your turnkey supplier, metal plating, salt spraying, you name it. They are the place to go. And when you go and call them, you'll talk to Doug Lewis. He's the one who will guide you through the entire process. The website is lewisengineeringco.com. That is lewisengineeringco.com. Call them for a quote, 903-938-6754. That's 903-938-6754. It's Lewis Engineering. David, don't feed the trolls. Don't do it, David. Don't feed the trolls. They don't understand they feed me. I get my life force from idiots. Chris on the YouTube page, yes, I'm going to mention you. You're an idiot. He's talking about how A&M wins one game against Missouri. Now we think we're going to blast everybody. Not once on this show have we said that. If you had listening comprehension, you'd be able to listen, but you don't. You came in with a stupid agenda to our show just to feel like you're relevant. And Luke, I'm going to get the Aggies all worked up. You're just stupid, dumb. You represent Longhorns in a negative light. You're an embarrassment to the entire community for thinking that way. Not one time did we say that. Callie, did we not say you got to bring your A game on the road at Mississippi State?
We did.
And if you bring your A game on the road at Mississippi State, you should come away with a victory.
You should.
That's how it works, idiot. Anyway, for everybody else, I hope you're having a wonderful, blessed day. Love you. Give hugs to all your neighbors. That should be the first thing you do today. When we come back, happy smiles. We'll talk to Billy Liucci, the executive editor and co-owner of TexAgs. That and more is TexAgs Live. Hey, everybody. We're just happy and dandy here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Technical problems, trolls, and, segments going a certain direction will never derail the happiness and joy of a 5-1 football team that chooses, the audience in the show chooses to be optimistic with what's ahead and also realistic. And that's okay. And we don't have to listen to others. We go back to the Boss Firearms Hotline. The Billy Liucci joins us here. Billy, it's been a minute. Good morning, sir.
Nino, what'd you do? Catch a gar?
Actually, the Twins caught 2 gars. 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I caught, I think, 5 to 7 fish when I was out there with Mr. Nagley. Yeah, it was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah, we had a blast.
Yeah, it looks fun. I just happened to see your pictures. I forgot about that.
And you're not here in studio, so you can't see, but I got my Rocky Balboa beard from Rocky IV when he went to Russia to train for Ivan Drago. I don't think I'm going to keep it much longer, but I figured you would have had a funny thing or two to say about it.
Well, I'll come in tomorrow for some actual studio time, so pencil me in.
Okay.
Move some of your furniture around. Keep the beard so I get a good look at it. See, if I think you should continue with it, which would really throw you off because you'd be like, does he think I should continue with it because it looks ridiculous and he wants me to look ridiculous for his own gratification and entertainment, or not just his own, but the whole office? Or does he think it looks good, because just a good rugged look for a guy that wades in the water and catches alligator gar with his bare hands and goes and does MMA and brandishes firearm?
Well, I'll be
you won't know.
100% honest with you. Your opinion won't play a role in this. Elizabeth has already told me it needs to come off soon. So there's that. So
I'm up against it then in that regard. It doesn't sound like I'm going to be able to have much say, but you never know. You never know. At least leave it for a day. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'm planning on it. I'm planning on it. Billy, I had this idea for this segment because bye weeks are so interesting because I do want to look at the entire SEC. We can do that this hour beyond what we've already discussed because I know we talked a little bit about Ole Miss and some of their issues there. But I kind of want to forecast some things in the second half of the season and potential guys making some moves this year. And I'm gonna throw you Captain Obvious for the second half of the year, and just tell me what you think. Potential big second half, Terry Bussey. Bigger second half, I should say.
Yeah, I think. You just look at the Missouri game, and it looks like he's really starting to figure it out. I think I was really impressed seeing him make a play. Just such a wide receiver catch down the field against Missouri. Back shoulder throw by Garner. Great throw down the field. Terry adjusted, got his feet in. And, we know he can't do that, but, it's just the evolution of him as a receiver because he's been such a jack of all trades. But just, and that little swing pass to him out of the backfield for 30 yards or whatever it was. He's such a weapon, and he is such a people, you can compare him to whoever you want. We look at recent A&M history and you say Ananias Smith, but I think Colin Klein will do such a great job of utilizing him as he can handle it. The more he can handle, the more you can put on his plate. And I think you're going to see that start happening more regularly. At running back, lined up at running back, lined up at receiver, motioning, from receiver across the formation, taking handoffs. The threat of him doing that becomes such a big threat that they have to really respect it. Opens things up for the runs when you don't hand it to him. So, I think he'll be a much greater weapon as we move forward. And I think there's going to be a game where Jabri Barber does that as well.
Well, he was another name I wanted to give you because I feel like we had these expectations because of how he looked in spring ball. But he has the injury. He comes back way sooner than anybody expects it. And he's shown these flashes for moments okay, I see it coming. And that's why part of my reason for the second half of the season, he may have a much bigger role.
Yeah, I think the two of them can really impact and change see look of that A&M receiver room, and I've been saying it since, Jabri started working his way back. And, I would have thought around Arkansas we'd start seeing significant impact from both of them. And while I would say that Bussey's on Saturday against Missouri was significant, I think that was the first time we'd seen, significant game impact from either of them. But I do think they're both already contributing and making an impact. But I'm talking about where you go, okay, either one of these guys could have that type game that Bussey had, or maybe even a little better on any given Saturday. And I think we're kind of to that point now.
Billy, I'm going to throw one other wide receiver who has looked really good, but it took a few weeks for him to get going. And Noah Thomas, who's had 3 consecutive really nice games. I feel like he might be the one that we're like, wow, look at this second half of the season.
Yeah, I actually had Noah. I thought he was going to have a 100-yard game against Mizzou. I thought he was going to go back-to-back because I think he's been looking that good. He went 3 catches for 65 yards, had a real tone-setting grab early in that one. So, yeah, Noah's a guy that you could see his production really jump in the second half of the season, no question about it. And then you're talking about guys like that. Defensively, the ones that stand out are those linebackers. Really all of them, but in particular, I think because Scooby's had a really strong first half of the year. We know what Torian is, and it's good to see him getting the action with that sack last week. But I think 27 and 22 are arrow pointing way up right now. Damian Sanford and Solomon DeShields. So I think they've got a nice situation at linebacker. DeShields was a late, by today's standards, portal enrollee. He didn't get here till June. Damian just flashes more and more. The more he plays, the more he flashes. Those two plus Scooby, they're so long, athletic. They can home run so well. If there's a position where I go, man, it could get so much better from the second half of the season than what we saw the first. Linebacker might be my number one, with receiver a close second.
Yeah, and just linebackers as a group have been so much better the last, 2-3 weeks. Billy, another defensive person to consider, and part of it was because he didn't get to play because of some penalties, but Dalton Brooks, I feel you pointed out his arrow way early in the process before the season started. He's living up to that, and I think we're going to see a lot more of it in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I said that last year when he got here. We liked it when you signed him, but certainly the early returns were really impressive, and he had to pick him in the bowl game. This offseason, I repeatedly said I thought he'd be one of the best players from the defense. He had a chance to star. And I think we're starting to see that now finally. Not finally, but once he missed essentially a whole game. really like a game and a half, almost 2 games due to targeting. Most of the whole played one play against Notre Dame, and then the second half of Florida, first half of Bowling Green. So yeah, I mean, now you see him, and he's an impact defender. He's a difference maker on the back end for Mike Elko.
Yeah, no doubt. And then someone on the defensive line, and I don't know who that is, Billy. There's many guys we can talk about. We can say Rodis Johnson. We can say DJ Hicks. But when you talk about the D-line, somebody that we haven't expected, who on the D-line do you think is poised to have a nice second half?
I don't know, David, because, I mean, you know what we're expecting from the starters. Maybe Shamar Turner just goes wild in the second half. I mean, he's had a good half of the season playing down there in the trenches, but maybe he starts, being extra disruptive. That's there. The potential is there. Maybe I think between him and Shamar Stewart, Nick Scott on any given Saturday and get you 3 sacks or 4 tackles for loss or something. So that's wild to say about one the 1D line, but I think any of them, man, you named them all. I think it's just going to be a rotating thing. You say Cassius Howell, Rylan Kennedy, so I think it'll just be a thing that as the weeks go on, you never know where it's going to come from.
Look, we're inside, as close to being inside the operation as possible. And when you mention Lane Kiffin going all in on these transfers and they're there for NIL or whatever it may be, and you look at the transfers that Coach Elko got for this program and how they've hit on them, and it's not just Will Lee, and Nick Scourton. You look all around. The additions of these transfers, who, by the way, have to learn this system midway through the season, they're starting to kind of feel that they are beyond part of the team. They are, a big part of what A&M is doing. Just talk about the transfer additions and how they have, I don't even know if exceeded expectations is the right word. They've been the right fit, and they have played up to what we expected.
I mean, I think I'm pretty sure you and I talked about this last week when I was on. It's like the portal guys, and 6 of them started on defense, would be the top 10 team last Saturday. 6 of your 11 starters on defense are from the portal. But you're also getting a ton from the guys that you inherited in the program. I mean, it's literally like on defense, split 50-50. And then on offense, you look at Armaj, Reed Adams, you mentioned Jabri Barber, I mentioned Cyrus Allen earlier. E.J. Smith's contributing in that backfield, certainly. So, and the tight end, Watson for sure. Trey Watson is a big deal. And Shane Calhoun helps a lot as a kind of that third tight end. So, no, they did a tremendous job in the portal. And Coley, I didn't mention Coley. Like right now, 40% of your offensive line is from the portal, and a good chunk of your starting secondary. So they did an incredible job, and not very many guys that aren't contributing. So it was like they got a lot out of everybody. It's not like there were very many, if any, like misses out of the portal there. Even the guys that don't start. Like if you look the other day, like, okay, who's not starting out there? Rodus Johnson making plays. B.J. Mays coming in at nickel for Jaden Hill, another portal guy, but making plays. There's not many of them that you go, oh, where are they at? Because they're kind of everywhere. And again, even if they're not starting, they're factoring in.
Billy, there's one name that I forgot to mention about this, second half surge potentially, and that's the quarterback Conner Wigman. We only saw him a little bit, right? We only saw him, and the last time we saw him, he looked fantastic. So that is closer to what we kind of expected from Conner. And if that translates to the second half of the season, what we saw in the Missouri game, or just semi-close to that, talk about his second half of the year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sky's the limit for Conner if he plays like he did against Mizzou. And, again, it's not about the numbers. I mean, I think he was 18 for 22 for 276. I think had they let him throw in the second half, he could have been 28 for 32 for 400 yards in that game. So it's not about the stats. It's how he looked. It's how confident he was throwing the football. It's how in sync he and Colin Klein seemed to be. It's plays calling for him. And it's the accuracy of the throws he was making, both. It's not just the down the field. Oh, wow, he put it in the one place you have to catch it. These receivers are now, they're catching the ball in stride and in rhythm of the offense. But it's also the short stuff. It's the swing passes. Those are things he was so off against Notre Dame. He was just so, like, you look at that pass to Bussey that I mentioned earlier. It's like a perfect throw. And the throw to, early in the game to Le'Veon Moss over the middle, like these little ones to the backs and getting the ball out of his hand quickly and getting it to Noah Thomas where it gets there a second faster, and now he's got space to make multiple guys miss because he's such a gifted athlete. Those are the things you really see with Conner that you don't – they show up in the stat sheet because they're completion and stuff, but It's the little reasons why those plays are successful of what he's doing. So if he keeps that going, again, I think the sky's the limit for Connor Wigman.
Well, and I'm a close.
I go back to what I said, David. Jackson Arnold, Nico, Connor, and Nussmeier. And I said one of those four is going to be the best quarterback out of the group. And that quarterback's team is going to go to the playoffs. Well, I'm putting a big X. Okay, we're obviously putting an X over Jackson Arnold. And I want to talk more about around the SEC in the country, and we'll save OU for a minute. But Jackson Arnold's done. They're playing a guy now that can't complete a forward pass. It's just horrifically bad. I don't care what anybody says. For right now, like, he does not need to play right now. And when you see some of these guys that are thrust into action, Lagway had a great throw to force overtime in that one. But he's still a true freshman. It shows so much. And you look at Nico, like Marcel Reed, you look at Hawkins at OU, and you look at Marcel Reed, you get a real appreciation for what he did for 3 weeks. You really do when you look around. But to me, Nico, I'm putting an X on him right now. Their offense is in shambles in Knoxville, and he should have gotten beaten and out-dueled by Graham Mertz and Lagway in Florida on Saturday. He's lucky that Tennessee didn't suffer their second loss in as many weeks. He and that O-line are a big part of the reason why. They're not going anywhere. They got, I think, Bama this week. They also have Georgia still. They're going to be at least a 3, if not a 4-loss team, Tennessee. So, boom, you're out. Jackson Arnold, you're out. And here comes Nussmeier with his 40% passing, but throws a beautiful ball, has great receivers, hangs in there. He's tough. He's got moxie. He's a winner, you can tell. And LSU's sitting at 5-1, and A&M sitting at 5-1. They're both going to be favored this weekend to win on the road. And here comes that potential showdown. And we can't put Connor in there yet because he's played, 2 games against teams that matter this year. But the Connor Wigman we just saw, if he keeps that going, my little best quarterback / playoff prediction of those 4 in a couple weeks, or like one of those 2 might be left standing.
Billy, as we project, last thing about projecting, I just thought of it while you were talking about Connor.
Why are you projecting, David?
Because that's what I do. I have 15 hours a week, and it was a bye week, and there aren't a lot of new Aggie topics, so I'm trying to create some.
I think there's a lot to talk about.
There's plenty to talk about.
As usual, you didn't get the joke.
As usual, you didn't get my joke and my smile at the camera. I smiled, laughing.
Why are you projecting? Quit projecting on me, David. But
oh, that was funny.
You thought I was actually asking why we were doing projection.
Well, that was funny. That was good. I think, Callie, you got that one too.
Thank you.
What I was going to ask is, as I'm forecasting these second halves, I'm projecting these second halves. I look at Colin Klein and how, like, the first few weeks of the season, people are like, man, I don't know about this offense. And now we're starting to see that offense do what we expected it to do with whatever quarterback is out there. And just talk about Colin Klein's second half ease and play calling and what we've seen from this offense, because now the offensive line question has been answered. Quarterback is healthy. Wide receivers becoming hitting their stride, I should say.
Well, and you have a running back that is one of the tops in the conference to go with that O-line. And so there's a running game there that's going to allow Colin to build. So between the running game and Connor's ability to attack down the field, you're starting to see this offense is what they thought it would look like, during camp and getting ready for the season. You're starting to see kind of what they thought they had in it. And, yeah, I mean, again, there's a reason Elko hired Klein, and he told me about it when he did it. We talked about it when it was potential to happen, and he told me about it. even recently, just talking, like, I'm so fired up about the running game. And he's always quick to say, the goal is to really have great balance and be able to beat teams with both all the time, like every Saturday. Like that, we can beat you with either, and we plan to beat you with both, because that makes us really tough to defend. And when Colin Klein can get those pieces together, I think you're starting to see why Mike Elko, who had a pretty big check to be able to write, zeroed in on the old K-State quarterback and got him away from his alma mater.
All right, Billy, we're going to hit a break here. We'll come back. We'll talk some SEC storylines on the other side. Billy Liucci there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. That is a company, that makes documentary films about families, family businesses, family ranches, family get-togethers, buddies get-togethers. They make documentary films. If you're into the Vince McMahon documentary, if you're into the Last Dance, those kind of documentaries, those are fantastic, and everybody loves watching it. Even sometimes a topic you don't care about, they know how to capture it and tell it. It makes you want to watch it. That's what Chance McClain does. He does these Netflix-style documentaries that people freaking love about your family business. Your grandmother, she moved to the United States and started her business on the side. Whatever the story it may be in your family that makes your family unique, Chance can tell that story in a 2-hour documentary form, and I'm telling you, it is fantastic. And you can also do a YearFlix option with him, which are these 20-minute videos, Q&A reserved for more the younger. So if you're a freshman in college and your kid is a freshman in college and you want to tell that story and then do it as a benchmark video, and a couple of years later, you follow it up when they get their Aggie ring, whatever the story may be, let Chance and his team do it. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We go back to the Boss Firearms Hotline. We are joined by Billy Liucci. Billy, let's start things off here around the SEC. And is there a particular team you want to kind of start with, or I just start throwing you teams?
I mean, we can run around the league right now. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I mean, college football in general, why don't we start there? I'm sick and tired of the ACC. I'm ready for Clemson and Miami to play. Tired of watching that crap on Saturdays. Miami, you know, they're so fortunate to have, you know, they're so lucky right now to not have back-to-back losses. Mac Brown ran his mouth about Mike Elko during the offseason. And now you see what's happening to his football team. They're a fraud. They're a joke. And I think he'll probably could be nearing the end over there in Chapel Hill, right about the time he thought it would be a good idea to start yapping. ACC in general, trash. Big Ten's fun to watch. You know, I don't like these teams playing from across the country and all that. Kind of venturing in from, you know, this whole thing of Penn State playing at USC, Ohio State at Oregon as conference games, but damn, they were fun, weren't they? Mm-hmm. The overtime game in LA and the last second finish in Eugene. I mean, this conference it's a fun one now, man. You know, it's not that boring Big Ten anymore. I mean, I know that some of these teams still play that brand of ball, but I think Penn State is the third or fourth best team in the country. It's easy to say no, but in this year, maybe they are. I mean, I don't see a lot of great, you know, I mean, how great does Bama look? How, you know, it's not your normal year, but it doesn't matter because teams like them, you know, teams like Penn State, even if they go lose to Ohio State and stuff, they're going to find their way into the playoffs, which will be fun. So, yeah, around the country, I think Oregon could have a strong case for being number one. I'm fine with leaving Texas there, but Oregon's got a win that Texas isn't sniffing right now. If you're talking about resumes, I know Oregon's played a couple of close games, but they've got a win. They got no losses, and they've got a win that Texas is not sniffing right now.
But are you okay with Texas being number one?
Yeah, it's fine. I think Texas has looked exceptional. Part of the thing is they have not played an offense with a pulse. Someone said, I hadn't looked it up to confirm, but someone said they hadn't played an offense in the top 100 in college football this year. And I believe it. Michigan's trash on offense. They benched the quarterback after they played. Here are facts. Michigan benched their quarterback after they played Texas, opted for a guy that can barely complete a forward pass. Louisiana Monroe, Colorado State was humiliated a week later or so by Colorado. Who else has Texas play? Oklahoma, I already talked about Hawkins and what a terrible quarterback I think he is right now in this stage because he can't throw. That was an OU team that was on the verge of falling behind 28-10 to Auburn to be over. They played Mississippi State and Van Buren the week after losing Chapin for the season. I think that quarterback's come a long way. We'll see that this weekend. But again, Mississippi State, they have not played a team to even let us really get a feel for what this defense is. I know they're good on defense. I'm not saying they're not. I know they are. But their numbers are elite, like really, really elite. And frankly, I don't think that's the case. I think they're a really good defense. I think they're like a top 10 defense, top 15, whatever it is, but I don't think they're what their numbers say because I think there are several defenses in college football, maybe 10 of them, that would look that good against that schedule. So, but what they do on offense, they're going to be hard to beat, and I think they're going to be hard to beat this weekend. And I think they're going to beat Georgia. I think the team that beats Texas is going to be either like a Vandy or Arkansas. I mean, well, Arkansas, if they have Taylor Green, could be tough up there because of the environment. But I said Arkansas. I meant more like a Vandy or a Kentucky. And what I mean is just a team that can keep that offense off the field for 35 to 40, 38, 40 minutes of a football game. It's either going to take that, and I don't think those two teams can do that consistently enough because they're not good enough on offense. It's going to take that, or it's going to just take a team that can flat out score some points. And you're not going to beat Texas necessarily in a shootout, but a team that can win a 31-27 type of football game. And one of the few teams on their schedule capable of doing that, I think, is Texas A&M, if they continue to improve offensively. I'm not ready to bestow that on the Aggies yet, just because I'm riding the high of the Missouri game. But when you see it all come together with that O-line, the running game, Connor, Colin Klein scheme, you could see where, man, as the season goes on, this could become a pretty good offensive football team where it's tough to really stop them.
So, Billy, you just mentioned that you think Texas beats Georgia this weekend. The Georgia offense, do you buy it? And what's up with the Georgia defense? Because if they get their second loss here, again, like Alabama, who doesn't have their second loss, but it looks like it could happen. Like when you look at it, like some of these titans of the SEC look very vulnerable right now.
Yeah, I mean, Bama looked beyond vulnerable, and Georgia, if Georgia loses to Texas this weekend, and that's 2 for them, and you still got Ole Miss on the schedule, who's already got 2, so either Georgia gets 3 or Ole Miss gets 3. It's fascinating to look, and when you see Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Bama all still on each other's schedule, and then you look at A&M and Texas, and Texas has only got Georgia and A&M, and A&M's only got Texas and LSU out of those top groupings. You see again how favorable the Aggies and Longhorns have it. And you talked about it earlier, like, hey, South Carolina, they railroaded Kentucky. South Carolina should have beaten LSU and Bama. Like, what are we saying about South Carolina right now if they're sitting at 6-1 or whatever, 5-1, 6-1? I think maybe 6-1 with wins over Bama and LSU and Kentucky. So that's tough. We mentioned Mississippi State. We mentioned that Auburn, LSU coming in here. It's not easy, but compared to other schools, you have a gift in front of you. It's the same thing with Texas. So don't tell me, oh my gosh, Arkansas looks so much better, and Vandy, look what they're doing with Pavia, and man, Kentucky beat Ole Miss, and yeah, it's a lot tougher now than it looked a couple weeks ago. I agree with that. Just like A&M's wins over Florida and Arkansas look like better wins than they did a couple weeks ago, but it's still, if you're Texas, you have been gifted an opportunity to roll through your first year in the SEC. If you're A&M, you have been gifted an opportunity to make a hell of a run after a season-opening loss in your first year of new head coach. Those are not untrue, and it's because the league is so strange right now, and it's off. It has nothing to do with Texas and OU coming in. It's just these teams are, Georgia's going through a bit of a transition in personnel. Bama's breaking in a whole new coach. And it's just some of these teams that are historically pretty good stink. And the beneficiaries, to me, right now, as we're sitting here at the midway point of the season, are the 2 biggest beneficiaries going to meet at Kyle Field 2 weeks? Because both A&M A&M and LSU have positioned themselves to take real advantage of this.
Bill, I want to talk about LSU on the other side. I got to hit a break here, and I got some questions about what they've done so far. So we'll do that on the other side with Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Live. He's on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Right now, we're talking about the good people there at the Association of Former Students. If your organization or your business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during awesome events held throughout the year. I mean, we just had one this past weekend with Ring Day, right? They have marquee events, like I mentioned there with Ring Day, all Aggie Hullabaloo gathering. They welcome tens of thousands of guests. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of those attendees. And they offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. And these include title sponsorship naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition, and social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner that's been with the organization for over 140 years, supporting that Aggie network. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. Again, that is sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. It is the Association of Former Students. We are back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We go back to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Billy, help me understand LSU's defense for a minute, because last year they gave up 55 to Ole Miss, different teams. Ole Miss was expected to be this offensive juggernaut, and that's still to be debated. This year, defensively, they've lost some guys, but if you look at some of the point totals they've given up, certainly on a better trajectory than they were a year ago. Are you buying that their defense is much improved, or is it a product of who they've played so far?
It's too tough to tell, man. It's too tough to tell. I mean, that unit was getting just filleted a few weeks ago at South Carolina before Sellers got hurt, giving up big gash plays. Do I think they're getting better on defense? Yeah. Look, Ole Miss ended up losing Trey Harris in that game. Like I said, they don't threaten you on the ground like they used to. And it wasn't just with Judkins. It was just in general. They would get those backs would get going downhill. They'd get up to the line. Like that is much different than what they've got going right now. And again, we've watched them. Even when they blew out South Carolina a couple weeks ago, they still only scored 27. It's not like they scored 47 points and lit up the scoreboard. I mean, if you look at the three games that really matter that they've played, the only games that against teams with a pulse, what are their scores? I mean, can you read them to me?
Yeah, I got it right here. They scored
LSU, South Carolina, and Kentucky.
You're right.
What are they?
I'm sorry. I have LSU's schedule, but I have Ole Miss's now. So against LSU, Ole Miss scored 26. Against South Carolina, they scored 27. And against Kentucky, they scored 17.
So 23 in regulation against LSU, 27 against South Carolina, and 17 against Kentucky. Do you see something there? Is it safe to say that Ole Miss's offense has not lived up to expectations?
Safe to say, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, LSU held them to 23. I would say Ole Miss several times. LSU, by the way, and it has nothing to do with A&M. So A&M was fortunate. I wouldn't say they were fortunate to beat Arkansas. At no point did it feel like Arkansas had control of that football game. It felt like Ole Miss had chances to win that game earlier, to kind of take total control of the football game against LSU and couldn't do it. And, they had that disastrous mistake right before halftime. It felt like, though, Ole Miss, those teams play again like they could have taken control. The same can be said for South Carolina before Sellers got hurt. So I don't know what to think of LSU yet. I do know that they're going to be a really tough game for A&M, but they could go up and lose at Arkansas this weekend if Taylor Green is healthy and able to go. That's not off the table. I don't know how strong or weak LSU. I don't think LSU's a juggernaut on defense by any stretch, but I don't know what progress they've actually made. And here's the thing: defense at home in Death Valley at night. That's a different level. It's like A&M's defense at Kyle Field. They're like two notches better when they're in Death Valley or at Kyle Field at night, and that's what you saw with LSU the other night.
Billy, what about Alabama and Tennessee? When you think about what's going to happen to the loser of that game, it doesn't eliminate them, but really close, man. Yeah,
I mean, when you look at Tennessee, still got to play, I believe, Georgia. They have to play Vandy. I'm not positive. I think they have to play Kentucky, maybe, or Missouri. When you look at Tennessee, if they lose, it's not going to be their last loss. Tennessee would be kind of out of the discussion altogether. If Bama were to lose with how close they were against South Carolina, with how they lost to Vandy, if Bama were to lose, then they got to go to Baton Rouge the following week. Like Bama, I think whoever loses that one, they're out, and it will not be their last loss of the season. I mean, I think they'll have the loser of that game is going to finish with at least 3, in my opinion, and the winner still has a long way to go. But to me, if there's a team out of those two that could still find itself in Atlanta, it's Alabama to me.
Is there I think it's too early to really know what it's going to look like when it gets to playoff invite time. We have all these theories and what we think is going to happen, but it's the first year. But do you see a scenario where a 3-loss SEC team gets into the playoffs, Billy? Because there might be several of those options out there. Maybe just a couple that are at 10-1 or 10-2, or excuse me, 11-1 and 10-2.
I think if there's a 3-loss team that gets in the SEC, David, I think it would be a team, let's say like an A&M. Like, it would be a team that loses the SEC title game. It would be a team that went in at 10-2, lost the SEC title game, and was sitting at 10-3. And people, the case would be, they got to the SEC title game. These other SEC teams that we're thinking about did not have to play that game. They did not have to play Texas or Georgia or whoever in that game while other people were sitting at home. And then I think that would play around the other leagues too. Like, hey, you can put that team in. They didn't even play in the conference title game. A&M did, or Bama did, or whatever, and that was their 3rd loss. But it was only because. So I think that would be the only way you might see it.
All right, Billy, hit a break here. Do you want to do the final segment for a few minutes, or you want me to check in with you in the morning?
No, we're good. Pencil me in tomorrow. You just let me know what time, and I'll come in the studio, do a little sit-down, little beard check.
All right, I'll call you after the show.
All right, bye.
See you, man. Yeah. Billy Liucci there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. So that'll leave us just with a few minutes on the other side. So if you want to get a text message in, do it now. All the information you heard from Billy and what we've discussed for the 3 hours. Mississippi State, the state of the SEC, LSU's defense. Are you buying them a little bit based on who Ole Miss has played and who LSU has played? We're going to talk about that here in the last few minutes of the show. Right now, we're talking about Rollo Insurance. The difference is real. Rollo Insurance is an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for. They do the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. And they are number one. They're right here in College Station. Their headquarters is on Highway 6, but they're all over the great state of Texas with 60 offices. But beyond that, let's go beyond that. They're all over the country, but let's talk about where they are here. Houston area, Dallas area, Tyler area, San Antonio, Austin, you name it, west of the Panhandle. They are all over the place, and they want to make sure that you're in the best insurance for your family. If you got car insurance needs, homeowner insurance, farmers, business owners, you name it, they want to be the ones that take care of you. The number is 888-44-ROLLO. Go to RolloInsurance.com. That is 888-44-ROLLO. Go to RolloInsurance.com. Callie, I saw you bobbing your head to a little Nelly. It's a good song. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. By the way, the Angry Elephant is the place to go to get your eat on when you go there. Just know that the food is fantastic. Like your politics, love your bar, find an Angry Elephant near you. Bryan, College Station, Magnolia, San Antonio. They are the place to go. The DFW area as well. Carlita, what do you have?
We have a text. Says, Nuno buddy, don't give the next Horn fan any airtime or thought. The fact that they feel the need to chime in tells you one thing. They are nervous about November 30th.
Couple things. The airtime actually feeds my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I get riled up about things, it's actually, I think, good. Like
Right.
I enjoy it. So that's part of my thinking there. They should be worried. They should be concerned, maybe not worried. Like if you're not concerned, you overlook an opponent, right? Now, if you take care of business, if you're Texas, if you're, I wanted to say Georgia, if you're Oregon, any of these top teams, like you don't go into any of these scenarios scared, right? You're not worried about it, right? But you should have a lot of respect for who you're about to play. A&M should have respect for Mississippi State. All you have to do is look around the SEC, look around college football. If you don't take a look at what's happening, like if you go in there thinking, if they're not, trust me, an offensive team should be worried about a defensive-minded head coach who tries to take something that you do out, right? There should be concerns. You could be the most passionate fan in the world. If you can't see reality sometimes, you're the problem. So yes, they should be concerned. As for the airtime, literally 4-6 minutes of the show dedicated to that, combined with this segment and that, maybe not even that, right? Like, you say something, I will respond. People know that. My buddy Raheel, who's a Longhorn, by the way, was my co-host back in the day. He purposely would say certain things on the air or sometimes off air because he knows, here comes Nuno. I just want to see him get riled up. I know who I am. I'm okay with it. I'm totally fine with like certain things are my trigger points. Good, whatever. We all have them. I just do it on the radio sometimes. And at least from this host, I think A&M should win at Mississippi State. We all think that. Though Vegas thinks that. That's not outlandish to say. You can also have a lot of respect for going on the road at Starkville because of history, because we're seeing what is happening in real time in the SEC and around college football. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Live on a Monday. Tomorrow on the program, I just found out Billy Liucci will join us. So he'll be in studio for a little bit. So we'll have more of this on the program. And I think we have Jamie McCoy on the show. We'll have Jamie Morrison. We'll have Shireen Williams. And we'll have you. We'll see you mañana.